let's start refining our path. So I created sort of a rough path. I set anchor points and dragged out handles any place that I thought that my path should be changing direction. But if you notice my path, it's a little bit twisted. It doesn't really conform to the contours of my drawing underneath. So we're going to go ahead and fix that. We're going to go ahead and use this anchor point tool. This anchor point tool looks like a little corner because that's kind of exactly what it does. If I click with this anchor point tool directly on an anchor point, it will make a corner, or it will allow me to make a corner. If I click and drag on one of these handles, it will allow me to rotate that. All right, so I've got my handle and I'm dragging that around, and notice how it creates a corner. Now if I select A on my keyboard, I will go to the direct selection tool, and that allows me to click on an anchor point and move that anchor point, and I can still drag these handles around. If I want to go back to the anchor point tool, I can hold Shift C and I can create another corner. A to the direct selection tool, and I can move these handles and start refining my path. So this is really far out. Let me click and drag on an anchor point to move it, and then Shift C to go to my anchor point tool, create that kind of a corner. Then A on my keyboard, back to the direct selection tool, and I can start refining this path. All right, so again, the direct selection tool, if I click and then click again on a anchor point, I can move it around. If I hit Shift C, I can go to my anchor point tool and I can create a corner. And then if I select A and click on an anchor point, I can use my direct selection tool to drag these handles in order to refine my path and curve this path the way, and I'm showing you that as I drag this handle or rotate this handle around, it changes the direction of the curvature of the path. So I can really start to get this path to look like it, to follow the contours of the drawing below it. So I'm going to continue on just in this way to refine my entire path. Now, if I think I have too many anchor points, like I don't really need this anchor point here because I've got a straight contour and the path doesn't really need to change direction here, then I can press the minus key on the keyboard and I get a little minus sign here, and if I click on that anchor point, it'll just go away. Now, when I did that, it did change my, it did modify my path, and I want my path to conform to the contour here. So I can just take this anchor point here and then just drag down on that so that it's corrected. All right. All right, so I've got a path that looks pretty close to the original drawing. And you know, your original drawing was done by hand, and there might be some imperfections or things that you need to correct along the way, and that's perfectly fine. So you just refine your path the way that you think that it will look best. Okay, so we also need this little reflection here. That's what this little shape serves as. It gives us a hint that this bottle has a reflection. So let's go ahead and create a path for that. All right, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fill my path with black. Now remember, this is a closed path, so basically we've created an object or a shape is what I'd call it, a closed shape. What I want to do is fill my larger path, my closed path, which essentially becomes a shape that we can fill. I'm going to click on that to select it, and I'm going to take the stroke color off. I'm just going to make the stroke none, because all we want on this is a fill. So I'm going to select the fill swatch. I'm going to choose black, and then that made we made this little path here, and that kind of disappeared. So let's click and drag so we can find that to select it. I'm going to hold shift and deselect my larger shape. And just so that we could see what we're doing, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make the stroke none, and I'm going to make white the fill color. Okay, but instead of just leaving the shape here as white, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to punch this shape out of my larger shape, so I have this negative area in here. So I want to use my Pathfinder. So I go to Pathfinder. I'm going to use the shape mode feature, and it's called minus front. So minus front means that the thing that I created last, which is sitting on top of the thing that I created first, which is this black object, well, this thing that I created last is sitting on top. So when I select the shape mode minus front, it's going to punch this out of this white shape out of the black shape. All right, so there we go. So now you can see the background coming through.